Hello, I'm Andrew Chapple from Volkswizard, and I thought I'd make a video about the very special B7 RS4 Avant you can see behind me, because it's in the special order colour of Nogaro Blue. Nogaro Blue was introduced with the RS2 back in the early 90s, and it was actually called RS Blue as well, and was the signature colour of Audi's RS models until the B7 when they changed it to Sprint Blue. You could actually order a B8 RS4 in a Nogaro Blue limited edition, so Audi obviously tuned into the fact that it was a special colour. So I'll just take you around the car now and you can have a better look at it and see what makes it so appealing. Okay, looking at the outside of it, it's I mean, this colour, it obviously is not as TDI, you would not mistake it, but in some of the other colours they are quite plain, and it was a good, any B7 is quite a well designed, good looking car. And the S-lines are quite aggressive in their styling touches, so it's not impossible to miss one and think it's just a normal car when it's in grey or black or something like that. But in a bright colour like this one, it's got a lot more presence, and you know, the wheel arches are quite obviously wider than the standard car. They're a little bit narrower than the ones on the B5s, but they're still pretty beefy, and when you see one on the road, especially from certain angles, it is very, very butch. There's no better word really, butch. I think this is kind of one of the better angles actually, where you get kind of low down and it's just, yeah, just looks so wide. The exhausts contain active flaps, which means that if you select sport mode they open. They do close and open throughout sort of the rev range. I think it's an EU law thing to prevent noise, but open. They're not particularly loud, to be honest. The Miltech or some of the sports exhaust is probably quite a nice touch on these, but you can see the valve just there, and that can seize up and not work. Just like the B5 before it, Audi went the whole hog with the brakes, and they fitted floating discs, which in theory prevent the judder, but it's not always the case really. They are on aluminium bells, so they float. The steel disc is attached to the bell by pins, and it gives it more room to expand with heat, which prevents distortion. So quite a clever design. I think it was taken from racing cars originally. And they are heavy cars these, so they do need good brakes. This is a standard style of wheel. It's a 19-inch double 7-spoke is the official name for it, and they run 255 35 19-inch tyres, which funny enough is the same as a TTRS, which sounds a bit excessive for such a small car, but yeah. Okay, the front discs, I've just looked them up actually, they're around £300 each. The pads are quite dear as well, I think they're a couple of £100, so not much change from £1,000 if you go to an independent really for a front brake change. So it's a very important thing to check when you're buying a car, how good the brakes are. The other thing that these tend to suffer from is corrosion of the auxiliary radiators, which are located just in there. Their location means they get full of leaves and other sort of debris, and that causes the radiator fins to corrode and eventually get a leak. A weird touch on the RS4 is that the wing mirrors are fixed, and they can't fold in whether it's electrically or even manually. They're just fixed, which possibly could be annoying, especially if you get hits, but they do pop off, and I think they can be reattached if they have a big enough impact. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird quirk of the RS4. Okay, let's have a look inside. And the first thing you notice are those gorgeous bucket seats. They've even got slots for harnesses. I don't think anybody's ever probably used them for that purpose, but they do look good, and they're actually quite comfortable. They're not like a fixed back seat, they're very adjustable, and they've even got this adjustable bolsters that can get tighter. You don't have to do it on this button though, you can set it on the computer so it does it with the sport mode. A bit of a gimmick really, and very prone to going wrong, but if that's what you like and you're kind of skinny, then why not indeed. This one's got the flat bottom steering wheel as well. It's an RS4 trademark. You could choose to have a normal steering wheel with phone controls, you know, but some people don't like it, some people love it. The plastic section down here, yeah, it just feels a bit tacky, and the badge can sometimes rattle, but you know, it works, and it's got trip computer buttons and sport mode on there, so you know, it does add to the character of the car, and it's not available on an S-Line, so it's quite an important thing to have. They all get cruise control as standard. They don't get, believe it or not, automatic headlights as standard, which means you get the self-dipping rear view mirror and rain sensing wipers as well. They all get Bose. They all get heated seats, which some people love, some people hate. An RS4 thing is you get a start button there, which again is part of the theatre of owning an RS4. So you still have to start it with a key there, but the starting of the engine is taken care of by that button. You stop it with a key in the normal way. Many years ago, Top Gear tested a saloon at Ascari, and Jeremy Clarkson made a point of putting his seat all the way back and leaving no legroom for the rear passengers, which is a bit of a problem with the B7s really, especially when they've got the bucket seats, which don't leave an awful lot of foot space. Yeah, and they can also get kicked. The back seats, as a result, get kind of kicked quite a lot. So this one's quite good in that it hasn't been scuffed, but that's something to look out for. Yeah. Also, if you fold the back seats down, then you end up putting a mark in the bottom of the centre armrest there, which is a bit annoying. But as always, it's a beautiful, well-finished Audi cabin. And it's a bit of a shame the B8s weren't so good. They don't all have navigation, and that is potentially a problem if you wanted to fit it, if you've got the smaller concert radio, because you'd have to change a hell of a lot of stuff around here to get to work. I know, because I did it. And I wouldn't want to do it again, especially when the navigation isn't that brilliant. This car's got the CD changer in the glove box, which is a bit old hat now. Used to seeing the Audi music interface in there with an iPod connector, but the best we can do here is an aftermarket aux in, which does work. You get RS4 on the dials as well, so it's quite nice. And look at that speedo, 200 miles an hour, which is probably a bit optimistic for this, unless it was a very steep hill. Okay, here we are behind the wheel of the B7 RS4 Avant. If you've driven an S4 Avant, the first thing you'd notice is how comfortable the ride is on the B7 RS4. Audi went to a lot of expense and effort with the DRC suspension, which isn't completely reliable, but it does work really well. It does give you a relatively comfortable ride, which for an Audi is a performance Audi, well, even like the TDI S-Line. It's not bad, but it still handles really well. So, to summarise the B7 RS4, you've got an amazing V8 with a piston speed of a Formula 1 car, according to the engineer at the time. You've got amazing seats, you've got the build quality of an Audi, which is peerless really. Their interiors are famously good and were then and still are. You've got a car that handles as well, belies its weight. It's quite a heavy car, this. So it must be getting on for 2 tons, but it just doesn't feel it on the road, which really is a credit to the engineers. It's just a nice, compact, fast, refined car with a lot of street cred as well.